It is nature at its most explosive. Electricity turned lethal, taking a life in a millisecond. It may strike without warning, with an electrical jolt that can wreak havoc on the human body.
I woke up, I was kind of confused, and I realized blood was coming from my ears.
It can rewire the brain.
I remember feeling like I was on fire.
Now scientists head into the eye of the storm to decode this awesome force.
Holy jumping free-holies.
And doctors peer into the human brain to study the effects of electric shock. To learn what happens when you're struck by lightning. 100 times a second, over 8 million times a day, lightning strikes the Earth. A force of nature 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. An electrical jolt packing 30,000 amps and millions of volts in a split second. In our daily lives, we think we can control electricity, powering our homes, city lights, and now our cars. But electricity in its elemental form is beyond our control. And lightning is electricity on a massive scale. Yet lightning remains largely mysterious. It can strike without warning, and the path it chooses can be unpredictable. Which is what happened in the Rocky Mountain state of Colorado, outside Kremling in 2004. An unusual summertime golf tournament and the scene of a remarkable strike. There are nearly 40 people on the bluff, hitting golf balls at a target hundreds of feet below. Gary Almgren was there.
It was sort of a new thing that they started doing. I think that was probably my second or third time going up there. There's kind of a draw to hitting golf balls off a, 300-foot tall cliff. It makes it a lot of fun, I guess.
Gary and his friends are unaware that high above, a storm is gathering. Rapidly rising warm air collides with descending cold air. The result, cumulonimbus clouds, thunderheads. Often in Colorado, summertime clouds will produce lightning, but with little or no rain. Today is no different. The weather below is dry, and the golfers focus on their game. Directly above in the thunderhead, moisture and water droplets turn into ice. Frozen pellets begin to collide, which creates positively and negatively charged particles, electrifying the cloud. In the distance, thunder is heard. Photos from that day show a few golfers headed for the safety of their cars. But many others are still exposed. Thunderhead now contains more energy than it can hold. "19 people are struck down instantaneously. Eyewitness Annette Bach sees the strike from a distance.
Lightning hit just above the bluff of the edging of the cliffs. And it was so powerful that you could actually feel the electricity.
It was really loud. It sounded like dynamite and knocked us to the ground.
Nurse Deb Menhennet is a lucky one. She's able to get up and rushes to help the wounded. The tee itself is ground zero, and 5 men lay sprawled in a circle. They have borne the brunt of the blast, and Gary Almgren is in the worst shape.
I just ran directly to Gary and saw that he wasn't breathing and didn't have a pulse and started doing CPR.
Electricity in tiny amounts courses through our bodies. It gives us life, automating our heart rhythm, controlling our nervous system, triggering our every breath. Yet the massive jolt of a lightning strike can be devastating to the human body. The sonic boom can blow out your eardrums. The electrical overload can irreparably damage your nervous system. At the same instant, it can stop your heart. The shock may cause muscles to contract so violently that bones fracture.
I will never forget what he looked like at that moment. He had a pretty blank stare in his eyes, and all I could think about was that, oh, this boy has a family someplace. We got to do something.
With no pulse or breath, Gary is clinically dead.
3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15. Between breaths, I was asking people, do you see the ambulance? Do you see the ambulance? And they were like, no.
The scene on the cliff is chaotic.
But you could smell the electricity. You could smell the singeing of the bodies and, the hair. And you could definitely tell people were afraid.
Before the strike, Jason Reese was closest to Gary and about to hit the ball. Nearby, 2 other golfers watched. All 3 were knocked out. Jason's father ran to their side.
All 3 were lying on their backs, and they had a burning sensation from their waist down. They had no movement in their legs.
Gary is in the gravest condition. Deb Manhattan's CPR brings him back to life, but his heart beats erratically. It's another jolt of electricity that will save him. In the ambulance, paramedics shock Gary again, this time with a defibrillator. A defibrillator delivers an electrical charge, able to shut down the victim's failing electrical system. Following the jolt, the heart should revert to its proper rhythm. But time is still crucial. 2/3 of all lightning fatalities occur within the first hour after a strike. But of all the victims, why was Gary's brush with lightning so much deadlier than the others? Doctors believe it's all about timing. The human heart follows an ironclad routine: expand, contract, and repeat. If lightning strikes at the wrong moment in the cycle, a victim can go into cardiac arrest. Gary's wife, Heather, received a call at their home.
His dad called and said a bunch of people got struck by lightning up on the cliffs, and Gary was one of them. You need to come down to the hospital. And his dad's kind of a jokester, and so I just kind of laughed at him, and I said, yeah, right, how do a whole bunch of people get struck by lightning?
Treating Gary in the ER is Randy Wagner.
When he arrived in the emergency room, he had what is called a Glasgow Coma score of 8, which means he really wasn't responding very well to any type of stimulation.
CPR and a defibrillator stabilized Gary's heart, but his brain and nervous system are still in trouble. Lightning's powerful charge attacks nerve cells the fastest. The nervous system forms a superhighway, carrying the electrical charge throughout the body, where it can attack internal organs, the spinal cord, and the brain.
When I saw him in the ER in Denver, and once I started hearing, he had a collapsed lung, they had, internal burns, and, you could see the red going down his body and stuff, I didn't think there was any possible way he was going to make it.
Heather prepares for the worst.
And at one point they said if he makes it through the night, he may not have any brain activity.
But Gary does survive the night. To everyone's amazement, he leaves the hospital 1 week later, only needing therapy to overcome some short-term memory loss. A common symptom when the brain suffers such extreme electrical shock.
My short-term memory these days is maybe a little less. It's forced me to get into a habit of writing things down more, paying more attention to my calendar at work, so I don't forget a meeting or forget to call somebody back.
But all things considered, he was lucky. By receiving life-giving CPR by Deb and Hennett so quickly, Gary dodged a big bullet.
She is truly the one who saved his life. It was not me. I finished what she did.
I may have got third place on that target or something, and I won a t-shirt. It was sort of a joke among us that I got struck by lightning and all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
The 19 people in Kremling struck by a single flash of lightning is believed to be the worst in Colorado history. But they don't just survive, they fare well. What's the secret to the Kremling survivors? The surprising answer doesn't come from the sky. It's buried in the ground beneath them. When clouds produce lightning, it mostly remains harmlessly in the sky. But 1 out of 10 bolts rocket down to Earth. In the United States alone, lightning kills more than 40 people annually. A toll that often surpasses hurricanes and tornadoes. It injures more than 300. And so why did 19 golfers hit by a powerful lightning strike on a Colorado cliffside survive? These photographs were taken moments before the strike. At this mound, over 130 yards away, 2 men would be zapped by the charge. Other victims would be knocked flat. To understand what happened, we need to explore the power and mystery of lightning. When many people fall victim to a single strike, it can be attributed to the fact that lightning has multiple branches, each one capable of striking a victim. Or lightning can travel from one person to another, if they're touching. But neither of these scenarios apply to the Kremling disaster. Starting from the point of impact, the spot where the 4 most seriously injured golfers fell, there are 2 theories. The first focuses on the person about to swing the golf club. The strike may have hit the club, then flashed across to Gary, the most seriously injured. But if this were the case, the golfer at the tee should have sustained serious injury. But he regained consciousness almost immediately. His club would have had scorch marks, evidence of a strike, but the golf club showed no evidence of being struck. Gary was not swinging a club, yet he was struck dead by the powerful strike, then revived by CPR. The evidence all pointed toward another theory, that a lightning bolt did hit Gary directly, charging through his body, then radiating into the ground, sending a powerful shock up one leg and down the other to anyone in its path. But the golfer at the tee, standing on a wooden platform, is least affected, despite being closest to Gary. How's this possible? The answer lies in the ground. The Kremling bluff is made of sandstone, a poor conductor of electricity. The bolt's current may have had nowhere to go, except along the Earth's surface and through all 19 people. The golfers' bodies, made up of 60% salt water, were the best conductors of the electrical charge. This confluence of events, the exposed cliffside, the growing storm, the golfers closely gathered, and the poor conducting sandstone combined to create a unique set of circumstances. If all the golfers that day sought out shelter when they first heard thunder, they may have all walked away unharmed. The rule is called 30-30. If you see lightning and you hear the rumble of thunder within 30 seconds, it's time to seek shelter. You should then wait 30 minutes after the last sound of thunder before resuming outdoor activities. lightning doesn't always follow ironclad rules. Not far from Kremling in Vail, Colorado, a very different type of lightning strike resulted in a very different outcome. Physician Henry Crawley, out biking through a valley on a beautiful day, takes a break to watch a rugby match. There's not a cloud in sight. Then, out of nowhere, he's struck down. Lightning burns a hole in his helmet and knocks him unconscious. He was struck by a bolt from the blue. In fact, many survivors report a clear sky when lightning struck them. Lightning often exits the side of a cloud, sometimes traveling as far as 10 miles before turning toward Earth. In other words, it can appear out of nowhere. Unknown to Henry Crawley, 10 miles away, obscured by steep mountains, an electrical storm was raging. But he had no reason to feel in danger. Where he was, the sky was clear, and there was no sound of thunder. Rescue workers do not get to Henry right away. He's in cardiac arrest, and his brain is deprived of adequate blood flow and oxygen for over 30 minutes. Loss of oxygen and the direct hit to his head alters Henry's central nervous system and brain function. The one-time athlete must relearn to walk. Months later, the once sharp-minded physician suffers progressive memory loss and cognitive ability. Eventually, the independent outdoorsman can no longer care for himself, grows frail, and continues to deteriorate. 8 years after the strike, Henry dies of complications from that fateful summer day. It turns out that Colorado is the lightning capital of the American West. And the chance of being killed by a lightning strike there is higher than in almost any other state. The summer months, when most people are out of doors, is the most explosive, as weather systems collide where the Rockies and the Great Plains meet. But lightning isn't limited to hot spots like Colorado. All lightning needs is wind and water. Wherever strong winds propel masses of moisture-laden air upward, there's a real chance of devastating electrical storms. Tropical regions near the equator get more lightning than almost anywhere else on Earth. Kifuka, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for example, receives more than 400 strikes per square mile every year. Cameras aboard the space shuttle have captured remarkable images of lightning. In the United States alone, lightning strikes more than 20 million times annually. It's a phenomenon that is unavoidable. But despite lightning's frequency, it's still poorly understood. An event that happens in a millionth of a second is all but impossible to dissect.
A little bit to the left.
But now scientists are attempting to get a better look, using groundbreaking technology and ultra-high-speed photography. They may, for the first time, unravel the inner workings of this awesome force.
Oh, that was outstanding. Fantastic. Woo!
Who hasn't watched the drama and beauty of an electrical storm with awe and fascination from afar?
Yeah, we got one!
But few see a storm like this and head directly into its path. Tim Samaras, an electronics engineer, has chased tornadoes all over the Great Plains, risking his life to document extreme weather. It's all part of a lifelong pursuit to decode storms, a quest that could find new ways to protect us from the worst Mother Nature can throw. Now, Tim and meteorologist Carl Jung take on this powerful and unpredictable force of nature.
It's probably one of our best hits right there. Absolutely. Here we getting a buildup of electrical charge in our area, so just keep aware of it.
They are determined to capture lightning in an entirely new way. To photographically deconstruct a single strike so that scientists understand exactly how it operates and perhaps give clues on how best to stay safe. One misconception is that when we see a lightning strike, it's heading for Earth. In fact, what we see is lightning's return trip, back up to the sky. Lightning isn't just a one-way downward strike. It's actually a circuit, a round trip. The flash that we see is called the return stroke, the completion of the electrical circuit. And when the return stroke heats the surrounding air, it triggers lightning's calling card, thunder.
The return stroke is part of the lightning bolt that we all see as the flash and we all hear as the thunder. It's the one that returns all of the current, thousands of amps and millions of volts from the ground to the cloud.
A lightning strike happens in a millisecond, far too fast for the human eye and for ordinary photography. To capture the detail he wants, Tim has built an ultra-high-speed rig with sophisticated electronics. Armed with 5 cameras, he can shoot 10,000 frames every second, over 400 times faster than a Hollywood film camera.
Okay, Carl, go ahead and adjust a little bit to the left. A little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. That's perfect, right there.
Tim's also busy adapting a Beckman & Whitley 192, a rare state-of-the-art camera, circa 1960.
This camera was an old Cold War relic way back when that used in the defense industry to photograph explosives. And now I've got the camera specifically to photograph lightning. This camera allows us basically to slow down time. All right, we're armed and ready to go again.
Tim has designed a triggering mechanism able to freeze lightning almost instantaneously. First, this machine measures the brightness of a cloud, detecting the onset of a lightning flash.
That sets a process, a triggering process, that triggers my equipment and turns on the camera even before the lightning strike hits the ground. It's that fast.
The storm is moving slowly to the east at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. It is severe thunderstorm warned, so we need to move it.
Oh, man.
If Tim's gear works, we may finally be able to decode a lightning bolt.
Man, this thing's coming in.
But each strike is unique. So Tim and Carl work into the night to capture their elusive prey. It's a dangerous pursuit.
Holy crap.
I'm a big scaredy cat when it comes to lightning strikes. We come out here in the middle of the field, put ourselves close to the strike zone, and work in a metal trailer with all kinds of sensitive electronics. It's not the most ideal situation.
In fact, far from ideal. Metal and water may not attract lightning, but they are the perfect conductors of an electrical charge, meaning a lightning strike could fry Tim's inventions and his mission to capture the perfect image. Tim has an ambitious goal, capturing lightning's return stroke and its mysterious predecessor, the part we don't see, the bolt's journey down to Earth.
Oh, that was outstanding.
There's an incredible amount of obstacles we have to surpass. It's a question of where we aim, because lightning is sporadic. We don't know where it's hitting. You have to be pretty quick with a camera.
Over the next 3 weeks and 10,000 miles, Tim points his cameras into countless storms. No one has ever captured lightning's elusive first stage in fine detail before, but Tim is on the verge of mystery solving.
Shutter time starting now.
Finally, he gets his moment.
All right, 8, 9, 10, bring it down.
All right, whereabouts was that? Holy jumping free holies.
These images reveal the very beginning of a lightning bolt with unprecedented precision. These downward tentacles are called step leaders, streams of electrons racing to the Earth's surface in a millisecond.
I have never seen this type of branching in the step leaders photography, high-speed photography, in this much detail.
Lightning has never been captured at this rate before. This many frames per second. This is historic right here, what you're seeing.
Tim has nearly stopped time, breaking down an event that happens in 1,000th of a second into 10 individual photographs. But these remarkable pictures tell only half the story.
Look at that. Oh, that's fantastic.
Tim has beaten the odds. He's captured lightning mid-strike.
That's the return stroke. Going back, we caught the return stroke halfway.
These 3 frames show lightning as we normally see it, a white-hot bolt of electricity.
You go one strike and boom, there it is. We caught that return stroke halfway.
Now go 1 frame back.
It's gone.
Wow.
Yeah, see?
Outstanding.
Tim's groundbreaking images of stepped leaders with their numerous branches and the powerful return stroke show lightning at its most beautiful and sinister. It reveals the complexity of a lightning bolt, the sheer force that struck down so many people in Kremlin and cost Henry Crowley his life. Every frame serves as a reminder of what lightning can do. A force that compels us to run for cover and seek shelter. But every year, lightning strikes more than 100 victims indoors. It can invade a structure in many ways, through metal downspouts and plumbing. It can course through wiring that in a typical house carries up to 200 amps of current, overloading it with a whopping 20,000 to as many as 200,000 amps. Possibly the most dangerous path in your house leads directly into your hand, the telephone. Nearly 2/3 of all indoor strikes hit people who are talking on their landline. Cordless phones are safer during a storm, but a shock can still get people standing next to the base.
You know there's a big storm coming. No.
Even an old-fashioned lightning rod can't protect you from every strike. They don't lure lightning from the sky. Lightning rods work on a simple principle. The highest point is the most likely to get hit. But there's still no safer place to be during an electrical storm than in a substantial shelter or an automobile. What happens then if lightning finds you when you think you are doing everything right? Watching a dramatic electrical storm sweep across the Great American Plains in Oklahoma, Justin Norris goes back to work inside. A promising athlete with dreams of joining the military, he's working as a short-order cook at a fast food restaurant.
Me and some crew members were watching a storm roll in and didn't think much of it. We went inside. A lady came through the drive-thru.
At the grill, a speaker relays orders from the drive-thru window.
Hi, can I have 2 burgers, 2 fries, and 2
But the din of the storm is so loud, Justin reaches for a knob to turn up the volume. The last thing he remembers is a deafening bang. It seems a lightning bolt hit the metal menu board. The current raced along the restaurant's wiring, searching for the ground. It found Justin instead. It stops his heart and surges through his brain. He's blown back by the force of the blast.
I think it threw me back probably about 4.5, 5 feet. Just dropped me onto the concrete floor. it just knocked me out cold.
His lips and eyelids turn blue, and his body begins to convulse. Emergency responders immediately defibrillate him, reviving his heart. But in the hours following the strike, Justin has repeated seizures. Justin survives, but he experienced significant changes.
I didn't know some family members by their faces or names, phone numbers that I had known forever, my right and my left. I think I was given directions to somebody or something, and I went to the state, where to turn, and I just stared at my hands and paused, and I didn't know which was the left and which was the right.
9 out of 10 lightning strike victims survive, but few are unscathed. Many suffer neurological damage from the sudden, incapacitating electrical charge.
Lost a lot of high school friends over it because they didn't see me as the same person. I don't think I am the same person at all. I mean, I try and be what I was, but I never could be again.
It's been 6 years since he was struck, and Justin believes that his brain has been transformed by lightning. But there's no proof. Now, new science may be able to help him, uncovering the secrets of a human brain after an extreme electrical shock. When Justin Norris survived a lightning strike, his family and friends struggled to understand the trauma he experienced. Electric shock can have profound effects on the body and the brain. But the damage isn't always visible to the outside world, or even to experts.
This task is very simple.
Convincing the world you're not the same can be a frustrating uphill battle.
Nobody would want to fake something like this or put on a show for anybody. You can't tell somebody it's just in their head if you don't know what it's like to be in their head.
A team of physicians at the University of Illinois Hospital in Chicago, led by Neil Pliskin, are mapping what happens to the brain after extreme electric shock. They can now make evident scientifically that the neurological problems survivors face are real.
From the people that we see, that we know about, 75% of those people experience significant changes in their thinking abilities and in their emotions and personality. It's not because they're crazy, it's because something has fundamentally changed.
Good. Okay, come on in.
Most victims display normal MRI and CT scan images, because a CT scan simply takes a picture of the way the brain looks. The MRI does too, but often shows blood flow as well. Pliskin's team is using groundbreaking functional MRI scans to evaluate cognitive capability.
All right, Justin, we want you to look at the green triangle.
fMRI maps glucose and oxygen levels, the fuel the brain needs to work. This will allow the team to quantify Justin's thinking patterns and his ability to learn.
At this point, we're literally just appreciating that these people do go through changes, and what the fMRI shows us is that these changes reflect real changes in the way their brain is activating and working.
Hey Justin, you're going to hear the noise for just about 5 seconds before we start.
fMRI images show how people may be altered by an intense electrical shock. They will chart Justin's brain activity as he performs a series of simple tasks, tracking his eye movement as well. Technicians give him a series of directions. When a flash appears, Justin is asked to recall its position.
Now look Look to the red square.
A healthy brain can pinpoint the location easily,
Look to the green triangle.
shifting the eyes properly. But Justin has difficulty with this basic task. He concentrates harder than an uninjured subject, but his memory has a difficult time briefly retaining the information. Justin's results are now compared with subjects unaffected by electric shock.
This is the brain activation map of our control subjects doing a concentration task in the scanner.
The color spots represent brain activity.
This is Justin's scan. And you can see the color of the dots themselves is less intense, which implies less activity.
There's low activity in several critical regions of his brain, especially the frontal lobes.
Here's the control subjects and their level of activation. Here's Justin and his level of activation.
Like many electric shock survivors, Justin is slower at learning new tasks.
It's like running in sand. You're running as hard as you can, but you're just not getting anywhere as quickly as you're used to doing.
These results prove for Justin that his symptoms are real. He has suffered permanent neurological damage, and the data gathered from these tests will help him and others learn to cope with a new reality.
I'm sorry. Maybe it'll help though.
Justin's plight is not uncommon for victims of lightning.
It's over with, right?
Others have hidden scars too that the world can't see, much less prove. Nina Lazzaroni was struck 12 years ago while riding a motorcycle. Since that day, she says her reading comprehension has not been the same, and that she needs to work hard to remember things. That's not all. Nina believes she's experienced unusual phenomena.
People tend to not believe this, but one of the most unusual side effects that I had was that street lights, parking lot lights, I've had billboard lights, in a lot of cases tend to go off as I approach them. It's very random. I have no control over it. I never know when it's going to happen.
Other strike survivors have stories like Nina's too. Lightning struck Gabrielle Blaustein in 1996 inside her home. The lightning bolt found her through a window during a severe storm. She needed to relearn how to speak and says she still deals with lasting side effects.
I have a lot of interference with electronic equipment, such as computers, such as ATM cards and credit cards. And, you know, I have store merchants who laugh because I short out their machines. I blow light bulbs like that. I try really hard not to blow light bulbs. It's kind of cool the first time, and then it's not cool anymore.
Mary Ann Cooper has a special interest in lightning strike victims and their stories. She studied lightning injuries for more than 25 years, interviewing hundreds of survivors.
You know, over the years, a lot of people have told me about all kinds of different electrical phenomena that they seem to be the focus for. I'm a physician, so I certainly can't explain that physiologically. I've talked to a number of engineers who are lightning experts. They can't explain it. So while I'm not doubting those people, we have no evidence that it actually occurs.
These unusual events, whether real or imagined, illustrate how little we know about the effect of electric shock. Electricity controls critical aspects of our body. It makes our lives easier and more productive. And it's something most of us carry around almost every time we leave home. But what happens if we're struck while voluntarily wired? In the Rocky Mountain township of Castle Rock, Colorado, a lightning hotspot, Jason Bunch is getting ready for a night on the town.
I've made plans to have date number 2, a girl named Ashley. And so I was doing some random chores around the house, and I needed to get the lawn done because it was Sunday.
With an MP3 player strapped to his ears, he starts the mower, cranks up the music, and gets to work. He doesn't pay much attention to the gathering clouds.
I remember seeing lightning way off to the north, probably 5, 6, 7 miles away. And so I didn't think anything of it.
What happened next is unclear. When a neighbor drives by, she sees the lawnmower sitting idle beside a tree, and Jason's shoes side by side. But Jason is nowhere to be found. In a split second, lightning can change a life permanently. When Anita Grice drives by Jason Bunch's home, it's clear something is wrong. An abandoned lawnmower, a pair of empty shoes. Knowing that his parents are away, she telephones Jason. He answers, but he isn't making much sense.
He said, well, I don't remember how I got in the house. I think I've been asleep. I've been regurgitating, and I'm bleeding from both ears.
Anita calls 911. When paramedics arrive, the only thing Jason remembers is that he had a date.
Jason did make some comment that he had a date that night, and they said, buddy, you don't have a date with anybody but us. We're going to Sky Ridge Hospital.
I actually talked to the firemen a couple weeks ago, and they said it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen because I wasn't dead. Normally in cases like this, you know, the victim doesn't survive.
Photographs show the extent of Jason's injuries. There are scorch marks on his foot. And burns follow the headphone wire's trail from his ears all the way to the MP3 player in his pocket. Jason is stunned but conscious. His critical functions appear stable, but he has no memory of being struck.
They say lightning shot out my hand, and then I had a burn on my hip and then on my foot, and just kind of scattered lightning exit wounds, I guess, across my body.
Jason's story makes national news and quickly raises fears about the dangers of lightning in our modern, wired world.
Here's what's left of the earphones. It damaged my hearing. It ruptured my eardrums, and where the cord was, it burned me.
Headlines from across the country and internet blogs fan those fears. But nothing attracts lightning. So what role did Jason's MP3 player have?
There appears to be a burn through the chrome coating on the backside.
Electroforensic engineer Mike Foley has come to investigate Jason's story. Like a detective, he analyzes the physics of a lightning strike and works to develop new ways to protect us.
And we're at the bottom.
He starts his analysis by recreating the scene. Jason's shoes were found about 16 feet from the mower.
I've been told that when you get blown out of your shoes when you're struck by lightning, I don't remember, but I did tell the paramedics, apparently, that I felt like I was being lifted out of them.
The shoes were found in the middle of the lawn, side by side, as though they were placed there. Jason long assumed that's where the strike took place. But Foley discovers clues telling a different story. There's crystallized sap on a nearby tree, and telltale markings on the lawnmower right beside it.
We found that there was some markings on the edge of the handle, which I believe you also had some burns on your hand. Was it your
My
right
hand?
hand?
Yes, sir.
Is this still a remnant of one of the burns?
Of course.
The evidence points to an entirely new scenario.
That either connected with the tree.
Foley believes the lightning bolt hit the tree.
So we're looking at that as possible part of the burns.
He then looks to the MP3 player.
Chrome coating on the backside. The wire itself looks like it was literally vaporized. It's not present anymore. It's just this fabric material that's left.
The thin copper wire inside the rubber coating has vanished, burnt to a crisp.
Where did you have the actual music player unit?
In my pocket here.
Jason's shorts are burnt where his music player hung. And his shirt has holes all along the wire's path. The evidence implies a charge traveled along his headphone cables. To determine this, Foley must change roles from a forensic detective to a kind of mad scientist. Here in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, researchers have harnessed the power of lightning.
This is the high voltage generator that
Mike Foley's colleague, Andy Plummer, knows lightning can be a killer. Here, he tests how large structures and airplanes react to extremely high voltage. But today, he and Mike will test how Jason reacts to high voltage. A Jason look-alike, that is.
We're going to simulate the lightning strike that Jason received while he was pushing the lawnmower underneath the tree.
They want to determine whether the MP3 player nearly cost Jason his life. Mike Foley lays out the evidence of Jason's strike. The lightning bolt struck a tree, then hit the metal handle of Jason's lawnmower. At the very same instant, it side-flashed to Jason. A sequence of events that can be replicated here.
We intend to produce a lightning flash to the tree that will then produce a side flash from the tree to Jason's head.
This lightning generator can produce up to 1.5 million volts. A 15-foot high column of capacitors causes the voltage to spike in a millionth of a second. It's a shockingly close recreation of actual lightning.
And from here, the voltage will be conducted through a fine wire to the top of the tree.
3, 2, 1!
It works. High-speed photography dramatically reveals the strike that hit Jason. The team moves in to analyze the data.
The simulated lightning flash that we produced here in the test came from the tree here down towards the right side of Jason's head and went into the headphone, and then exploded the headphone and the wires that went from the headphone down across the shirt.
It is consistent with the burning that's taking place here on the test mannequin and to what we saw on Jason's shorts. And again, this was where the player was located, tucked behind the waistband.
The scorch marks along the wire's path appear to indicate they're the cause of significant damage. But Andy is convinced otherwise.
It's good that the wires were here because otherwise the current would have passed through his body, probably doing much more harm.
In other words, Jason's headphone wires most likely prevented a devastating shock to his heart. His MP3 player may have actually saved his life. And it may have saved his social life as well. He finally did get that second date with Ashley, and they've been together ever since. The strike has given him new respect for the power of nature.
It's kind of scary now that I look back on it, but it's a miracle that I'm still here.
A jolt that lasts no more than a millionth of a second.
I was told you got a better chance of winning the lottery than you do getting struck by lightning. I guess my luck's swapped the other way around.
And able to cause devastating injury.
To me, it's awesome to think that something that powerful actually touched me and that I survived.
In most cases, lightning will let us know it's coming. That's our cue to seek shelter. Or risk the damage that 20,000 amps and millions of volts can do as it courses through our body, overloading internal circuits and changing lives forever.